Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic.
Welcome. Nightly Rant from
Sunny Las Vegas.
Vegas.
Sunny,
Nevada.
hot, deserty, delightful. I don't know. I don't have any more adjectives.
Anyway, I love it here. One of the things, though, that I do kind of miss is the regular asshole encounters that we would have.
There's a lot fewer here, that's for
We
sure.
don't really have those here. So, with that said, I understand that you, in your infinite brilliance, have selected an Am I the Asshole from the bowels of Reddit
Yeah.
to share with our audience and let me rant about.
Full disclosure, I added this to my list of topics 5 weeks ago, and I don't remember it even a little bit.
All right, so it's old and you don't remember it. Got it.
So really, we're both getting a news flash here from this. Am I the asshole?
All right.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Am I the asshole for moving out when my roommate charged me extra rent? For context, I, 22 female, and Jay, 32 female, moved into a house together about 2 years ago. Her name is on the lease, and she is technically renting me and her brother and his friend rooms in this house. The two guys downstairs are only there for 4 days a month due to their jobs, and she charges them half as much as me for rent. They also use the full-size garage in the back to store things. For the last 2 years, Jay and I have lived together semi-peacefully. She's quite messy, and due to my mental health, I tend to clean up a lot after her. She also has 2 dogs and a cat. She asks me to feed and let out her dogs on a regular basis. Her dogs will sometimes get into garbage, or her cat will pee and poop downstairs because she hates the boys. And Jay expects the first person to see the mess to clean it up, even as though it's from her animals. I also have a small room that barely fits my bed, while Jay has a bedroom and a spare room to herself. The boys have a whole basement and a garage. Now, the issue that broke the last straw for me. Jay gets our hydro bill every 2 months.
Can I say something?
What?
This person must be the asshole because they can't write for the life of them. I can't understand 83.2% of what they say, and I'm having to put together a summary in my head because they write like, I don't know, like a heaping pile of dog poo. Now you can continue.
The worst part is I'm leaving out some of the crappy details so that you don't have to hear them.
I kind of figured.
Completely irrelevant.
Kind of figured.
Anyway, the boys have the whole basement and garage to themselves. Now, the issue that broke the last straw for me. Jay gets our electricity bill every 2 months, and for the last billing period, she got a huge bill. Now, it's winter, and we do live in northern Canada, so it can get quite cold. I was gone on vacation for 3 out of 8 weeks that this bill was covering. Jay has been complaining about how expensive utilities are and how outrageous this is for her to pay all of it. I pay her rent for March a few days early, so she has time to e-transfer rent to the actual owner of the house. I sent her an extra $100 because I felt bad about the utilities, and after she received it, she texted me and asked for an extra $150, so $250 on top of the normal rent. Jay, however, only pays $100 in rent and then covers the utilities. That was our verbal agreement 2 years ago. But now, all of a sudden, the utilities should be my responsibility too. She's making me feel like a freeloader that costs her so much money. My friend just bought a house and offered to let me move in. So last night I gave Jay my notice and told her I would be out by the end of March. I'm actually moving out next week because I cannot stand to be here any longer. I feel like I'm unwanted in my own space. Now Jay is upset with me because I'm putting a financial burden on her, but my friend offered me cheaper rent and won't charge me for utilities out of the blue. My friend is also much cleaner and has been a huge emotional support as I've been living with Jay and trying to keep the house functional. So am I the asshole for moving out and putting financial stress on Jay?
No.
Not even a little bit, right?
Strictly speaking, you can't even become close to be called the asshole for that because you have a landlord-tenant agreement with the other person, and they are taking the risk. They're charging enough. They're supposed to charge enough rent that it's covering things for them, so that when they're taking the risk that you could move out, they could still cover bills. That's the whole point of what they're doing. And if this causes undue financial stress on them, they didn't do their part.
It sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's this person's problem. They're allowed to go somewhere else and live somewhere else and, whatever at someone else's place. They're allowed to do that.
Well, it seems like, despite the fact that she cannot write a story to tell, save her life, it seems like she gave 30 days notice-ish.
She gave enough notice, but she was moving out sooner than the end of the notice, which is also fine.
But she said she also paid
paying.
rent
because
through
she's
the
paying.
end of March.
Yeah, because she's paying, so it's fine. So who cares?
I can't find a single angle where she is the asshole, except maybe from her English teacher's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, she can't write for shit. But beyond that, I don't see where she's got any kind of problem. I really don't. I think that the other person is a big asshole for taking the, the agreement that may have been a verbal agreement, but it was still an agreement, and then changing it without ever once, even warning the other person that they were about to do that. It seems kind of effed up.
So, almost all of the comments completely agree with you.
Almost all.
Yes.
Okay, so let's hear some of the ones that don't.
Well, there's only this one.
Okay.
Because I didn't get this directly from Reddit.
All right.
So they only give me some of the comments. Anyway. Right? Try pulling that with any landlord and they'll laugh at you. Rent is based on the space needed, not how often you're using it. Your landlord doesn't cut a deal because you're only there half the time. A landlord would laugh in your face for expecting lower rent. Jay is the major asshole here. Rent and utilities should have been evenly split 4 ways. If anything I've seen, the smaller room gets the lowest rent. ... So...
But I didn't hear the person saying that they wanted a lower rent because they used the space less. I heard them say that there were people living there that were there less time because they work, and they got to pay lower rent. So that sounds to me like different.
The electricity bill that was so high, so astronomically high, she said she was only there for 3 out of 8 weeks that the bill covered.
Well,
so she doesn't think she should have to pay a full quarter of that bill.
And that seems fair to me.
And where I completely differ from the commenter is utilities weren't her responsibility per her agreement with the person.
Right.
I feel like Judge Judy would side with the 22-year-old on this one.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
And I can hear her in my head.
She'd be really sassy towards the J lady.
She's like, huh?
Yeah. She'd be like, duh. She has her way.
I feel like 22 female here, though, would get a lot of, I'm listening to her answer right now. You can be quiet. You have your opportunity.
Yeah.
I feel like she'd get a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that we have Judge Judy's imaginary perspective on this, am I the asshole too?
It's just interesting that a situation like that happens because someone just thinks in their head that they need to cover more expenses. So they just decide to do that.
Right.
And they don't even talk to the person about it. They just throw it at them.
There were ways that it could have been handled. Like, first off, I think 22 female was really nice to throw an extra $100 her way.
Yeah.
For the utility bill.
Yeah.
Thought it was really nice.
And then in the end ended up throwing $250 her way.
Well, I don't know if she ever paid the extra $150.
She said she paid the other $150.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. But there were ways Jay could have gone about the whole situation. Like, oh, the electricity bill is twice as high as it was the same month last year. Do you think you guys would mind pitching in?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like to be honest, like with Mitch and Alyssa, I'm just going to be honest. If they were to come to me and be like, you know what? I don't have the money to drive to school. I'd pay for their gas. I'd help them.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't pay for every tank of gas, but I'd pay for 1 or 2 here and there just to help get them through. But that's me,
Right.
I think you do that for family, not just your kids, but family.
Okay.
I think you do that. I don't know. I think that you can't say someone's an asshole for moving out when there was, I don't care what there was a month-to-month agreement. And the proof of the fact that there's a month-to-month agreement was that the lady just changed the terms of the agreement on her own.
Right. There's
To
no
charge
written
utilities.
agreement
So
here.
there's not like there's some, lease that's holding them to it. It's a month-to-month
Right.
agreement, all verbal. And so the terms have now changed. Oh well. Fuck it,
Right.
I can move to somewhere else now. If I don't like those terms, I get to go somewhere else, and that's what she's doing. There's nothing wrong with that. And you mean we were asked, was she the asshole? She's not the asshole. She can't be. The other person is closer to being the asshole for just arbitrarily deciding that after saying you wouldn't charge me utilities, suddenly you're going to charge me utilities without having a talk with me.
Right. Now, I think all the stuff about the guys who live downstairs, we really could have just done without. I mean, it really
that was just her pettiness getting the best of her, if you ask me. That's what that was.
She wanted to complain about how much space they had. Exactly.
And how little they spent compared to her.
Right.
And, that's... Unfortunately, I lived with somebody like that.
Right.
Oh no, the garage is mine.
Well, when you lived with that weird dude,
Yeah.
you guys effectively split the house 50-50.
Inside.
Inside, yes. You split the inside
Yeah.
of the house 50-50.
Yes.
So I would think it would be kind of fair if you split the rent and utilities 50-50.
Yeah. Well, that was the deal.
Right. Until it wasn't, and he wanted you to pay all the utilities. So you've really been in this situation.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. I have. And
you had a written agreement. And what did you do? You gave 30 days notice and told him to
out.
eat a dick.
Yeah, moved out. I mean, exactly. And I even had to move out on a day that he didn't know I was going to leave on. So because he was such a jackass that he would have gotten in the way.
Right. So you did the exact same thing as her.
Yep.
Moved out a week after you gave notice because it was too uncomfortable to stay in that situation anymore.
Yep. It was bad. I mean,
So you can really relate to poor 22 female here.
I can.
Except you know how to write a story.
Only difference is I know how to write a story, and I had a written agreement. So, he couldn't have continued down that pathway because the courts would not have allowed it.
Right.
Because the next step would have been to get a restraining order against him, and he would not have liked that.
Stephen Harper would have saved him.
That conversation was ridiculous. Just utterly ridiculous. So I want you to turn around. I want you to look over there. You see that book on the floor?
Yes.
That wasn't on the floor? Yeah. That's because those furry, demonic, tiger/panther looking things that roam the house at night do that to my stuff. They do that to my stuff. They've decided that the shelf where the figurines are is now off limits. They've decided that. They don't go up there anymore, so that's good.
They knocked everything down at least twice.
But they do come on to the lower level one where the car is, and they roam that cube shelf. They're just jerks. Period. The end.
Your office / our podcast studio / this room that we're currently in has the best things to explore in the house. That's why they're exploring your things.
For now.
But they'll get bored.
Then I'm going to put those air shotguns in here and just every time they touch something, pow! Shoot them with some air.
Shit, that'd be funny. You
Catch
have to
it
put
on
a
video.
camera on if you're going to do that.
Catch them on video.
Yeah.
Imagine. It's just like we used to talk about. Remember when we used to have the little air fresheners that would go?
Oh, they were so alarming.
And we would always say we wish we could see what the cats looked like when they were nearby and it went off.
Because we had that one in the bathroom,
Yeah.
and you insisted it had to be where it was.
Yep.
And it would spritz you while you were taking a poo.
Yep. That was the idea. That's the
Really,
point of it.
really unpleasant
That was
to
the
get
point of
shot
it.
in the side of the head
That
while
was
you
the
were
point.
taking a dump.
That was the point of it. Was to keep you awake. But you know,
Maybe that's my problem now.
probably is. That's why you fall asleep over there.
Yeah. Anyway, he's making fun of me because I fell asleep on the toilet.
So, all I'm going to say is if you're going to rent out your space, you got to plan for the person to be moving out. Every month,
Right.
it has to be like you have to be ready for it.
Right.
I mean, it's like when you run a business and you have a manager person, you got to make sure someone else is trained in the things that a manager person does, because they could leave at any moment. Even people you'd think would never leave, they leave. So it is, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So you make sure that you're covered, and it's that same way with your personal stuff. You can't have that friend just disappear. If you rely upon that friend, you're now, dead in the water because that friend's gone. You can't rely upon them anymore. That's why it's bad. And you have to have your own control over your shit. That's my rant
Well, all right then. I want to tell people.
on the nightly.
Tune in to one of our future episodes if you want to hear why his dumbass of an ex-roommate should go be friends with a former Prime Minister of Canada.
We may or may not discuss that. I'm just going to throw the disclaimer in. We may or may not discuss that. But you got to keep checking to see if we do.
Yeah.
With that.
Good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.